Hi there, hi everyone. Lovely to be here. My name is Vicky Powell. I am the retail business queen, and the lovely Kristen has asked me to come in live today, see who is around, and talk to you all about private label, about product development. My background is in retail. I've worked as a buyer since I've just been working out the date since 1996. I've worked started my career at Matalan, then went on to Poundstretcher. I have worked for Home Bargains, then Liverpool Football Club and BBC Children in Need. So I've done, quite chunky stints at each of those retailers, particularly Matalan and Home Bargains was there for 7 years each. And my buying career has involved developing own label for those products mostly. I've done little bits of buy-in and branded product, but in the main, it's been sourcing own label products for those retailers and creating brands, creating packaging and sourcing product. So Kristen and I met through BizMums, and also I am on her mastermind course doing the arbitrage, because that is a very new process for me, looking at it from a branded point of view. But we had a chat and we were talking about how much I know about product sourcing and product development, and so she asked me to come in and chat to everybody really about the steps involved, and that it's quite a lengthy process. It's quite complicated. I don't want to put you off by any means, but I just want to talk you through the different steps involved. I have got a little download checklist as well that you can grab access to after I've finished this call, and tell you a little bit about a trade show that I've just been to over in China. It's one that I've visited for a long time. It's the biggest one in the world for general merchandise. It's in a place called Guangzhou, which is in southern China. It's not sort of, in the higher northern elements of China, so it's not too bad. It was about an hour from Hong Kong on the high-speed train, and it has been I've been there for just did 3 days there last week. I've done much longer stints at the trade show. I have spent weeks on end at trade shows. I've visited lots and lots of other trade shows in the UK, in the US, other parts of Asia and Europe. So that's attacking a trade show is a whole other challenge in itself, and you end up coming home with a notebook, something like this, full of business cards and stuff to follow up, and usually a catalogue, a bag full of catalogues under your desk. But it's fun. The trade show that I visited, as I say, is one of the biggest ones. It's on over a 3-week stint covering 3 different phases. Each phase has a different product category. It has what have I written down? 25,000 exhibitors and over 200,000 visitors. So if you've been to the Spring Fair, if you've been to the NEC, Spring Fair or Autumn Fair, and you think that is big, this one is immense. You look at the floor map and you say, oh right, okay, there's 14 halls to do. Each of those halls has 3 to 4 floors, and they are huge. I'll share with you some pictures in the group later on. I couldn't work out how to share my screen and talk through it at the same time, but I will show you some pictures later on, and then you can get an idea of the scale of things. Let's see who joined in. Sam, Tarif, hi Kristen, you've joined. Hi. Let me know if you've got any questions as I chat along. If I talk about anything you think, what the heck is she talking about? Pop a comment in and I'll try and explain it in a little bit more detail. But as I say, Kristen said that quite a lot of you had some questions and were thinking, as well as doing the arbitrage on Amazon, you were also thinking of doing your own private label, and that is, it is lots and lots of businesses are doing that. But my work, my teachings that I work with retailers with on a one-to-one basis or in my membership club is all about making sure that if you are going to do private label, that your product is really compliant to general safety, product regulations, EU product regulations. You've got the right packaging, that it's a good merchantable quality, because really you do not want to kind of be facing any comeback from customers or trading standards or anything like that. So it's, you know, really important first and foremost that you make sure that you are working with reputable suppliers and that your product is fit for purpose, fit for sale, and you're not going to get any comeback from your customers, because you are the person who's responsible. Your business is responsible for handling any queries like that. So it is really, really important. Okay, so as I say, I've done a little checklist for you. I'm just going to talk through this, and this is the 1, 2, 3, 5 steps. They're not straightforward. They're not simple steps. They are in quite a lot of detail. They will take a lot of work. But first and foremost, when you are thinking of developing your own product, it is all about the research. It's all about understanding the market. It's about understanding the product. What would make sense would be for you to develop your own products. That is a step on from something that you're already selling that's branded, and you may think, oh, well, that's selling really well, I can create something better, I can source something that is more competitively priced, but it's about doing that work up front and getting yourself really, really focused, because we can very easily be distracted with different types of products and think, oh, that it looks like that's selling really well on such body's website, and we go off on a tangent and start looking at different things. But particularly when you are visiting a trade show, it's really important that you are focused and that you've got an objective, that you know what it is that you are wanting to source, to look out for, and be really, really clear and focused. So do lots of research in the market, look at your competitors or your potential competitors, really understand the product and know what kind of specifications of the norm, what legal requirements you might need to comply with in terms of safety testing. So particularly anything that is child focused, a toy, anything that is electrical. So those categories are the real biggies, the ones that require a lot of testing, a lot of compliance to legislation. So those are the biggies. And also when you're doing your research, make sure that you understand who your ideal customer is, or your target customer. So who is this product for? And that will help you with your marketing, which we'll get to later. But having that knowledge about the product and about who it's marrying it up with, the right customer, will help you with your pricing, will help you with your design, will help you with your product development. So that is step number 1, all about the research. Step number 2, once you've decided on a particular product or a range of products, it's then looking into it a little bit deeper. So it's saying to yourself, how can my product be different? What can I do to my product? What can I do in the creation process that will make it stand out from a competitor, will stand out from the brand leader? What is my USP? What is my unique selling point? How can I make my product be better, or better value for money, or cheaper, or bigger, or stronger, or more colourful, or do more things? Because that's what you are wanting, really. If you just create a copycat product that is like for like, exactly the same as something that's on the market, you are just entering a price war. The best thing to do is to look at a product, pull it apart, and see what you can add to it that will make it stand out from your closest competitor. And then we look at pricing. So the research that we did in step 1, the research about our competitors and looking at what our competitors are selling at, will help you to establish where you want your product to sit on a pricing structure in the retail world, and whether that is for Amazon or any other platforms. Looking and making sure you're fully aware of what your competitors are selling at gives you that knowledge, so that you know if you can bring a product in that is better and is undercutting them, and you're making the margin that you want to, you're on to a winner. But understanding what your target retail price is, and then knowing what your margin requirements are. So you'll have worked out all of that when you've been doing the arbitrage process. When we do arbitrage, we have a minimum margin that we need to cover with Amazon fees, and then you know, your own target requirements. And it's exactly the same with private label. So if you know that you want to make a minimum of 50% margin plus the Amazon fees, then that gives you a formula, so you know what your retail price is and you can work out what your target cost needs to be, and that will help you again be focused when you are visiting suppliers and going to trade shows. The third thing to do in terms of product is understand your product specifications. As I said, knowing what that product needs to meet in terms of safety standards. Ooh, sticky up bit of hair there. Knowing where your product needs to be in terms of safety standards, in terms of design, in terms of packaging, all of that adds to product cost. If you want fancy packaging, that will add to the product cost. If you want to do your product in 2 or 3 colour options, that will possibly add to the product cost, because your supplier will then see it as 2 or 3 options rather than one product, and your price might get watered down. And I say your safety requirements. If you have got to sort out any testing on your product, then you will need to build that in terms of a cost, because it is your responsibility as the creator of a private label product. It must be your company's name and address on the product, on the packaging, for product traceability. And if there is any comeback, even if you wholesale to somebody else, the address and postcode on the product is the one that Trading Standards will contact if there is a problem. So you need to build all of those into your costings as well. So packaging, testing, and any product specification requirements as well. So that is the first 2 steps, and that's a real big lot of work to do. But once we have got through those first 2 steps, so we know what product we want to do, we know what our target cost is, we know who we're going to target, which customers we're going to target with our product. So we've got all the information that we need to then go out and source the product. And when we are looking for some suppliers, it's really important that you put together as detailed a brief as you can, particularly if you're dealing with the Far East. So you may have been scrolling on Alibaba and you may have had a look at some vendors on there. I would say be very, very, very careful with Alibaba. You are not necessarily dealing with a manufacturer. A lot of the time you're dealing with an agent or a trading company. And I've dealt with more clients in terms of rescuing them from a bit of a disaster when they've dealt with Alibaba suppliers on Alibaba than success stories. So be very careful when you are choosing a supplier, if you are just going on Alibaba and picking somebody random on there. It's really, really important that you do a little bit more research and you speak to the supplier or do live chat with the supplier, ask them lots of questions. But before you find the supplier, a supplier will want to know what your product specification is. So it's really, really important to put together a detailed brief, some tech packs if you're doing anything that is being manufactured from scratch. The manufacturers will ask for a tech pack, and a tech pack is drawings, artwork, fabric specifications, labeling requirements, so things like wash care instructions if you're doing any garments. They will require flat pack artwork, 3D artwork. There's a lot of detail. Lots of suppliers will help you, but it's really important to have as much detail as possible, even if they are just images of samples that you've got and you want to explain to suppliers that you want this type of packaging or you want a label that looks like this. Then you can pull together as much information as you have on a tech pack or a brief. You'll need to include in your brief how many colours you want, what the Pantone colours are. Dimensions are really important, size ratio split as well, and obviously your target costs and your estimated quantities. That's all the information that suppliers will need to be able to give you a good realistic price. So that is step 3. And again, that is a lot of work just to pull together a brief as well. And it is a real vital part of the private label process. Is everybody all right so far? Okay, step number 4. So we're on to sourcing. So we've pulled together our brief. We know what we want to do. We know who we're going to sell to. We know exactly all the ins and outs and the full details of our product. How do we find suppliers? So you may opt for going down the UK route. It might be something that you're very passionate about. You want to deal with a UK manufacturer. You want to go down the European route, a little bit closer to home, easy to get to if you want to go over and look at, meet with your suppliers or go and visit factories. And the third option is the Far East. Generally the cheapest option, but generally the more difficult to deal with, and the minimum order quantities are much more demanding if you deal with the Far East. And things to consider when you are looking in your chosen routes for suppliers is that, as well as getting a price from a supplier, generally they quote X factory, so it is literally the price for them to leave it at the warehouse door. And on top of that, you have got shipping costs, you've got duty if it's outside of the UK, you've got bank charges because you'll be needing to pay them as a foreign transaction, generally in euros or dollars. So you will have the currency fluctuation as well to consider. So if you worked out your price based on the dollar rate today, in 2 or 3 months' time, by the time your goods are ready to ship, the dollar rate might be completely different. So it's important to build in a buffer. And there will be sampling charges as well. And most importantly, it's lead time. So you cannot just present a brief to a supplier today and expect to get the goods manufactured and in your packaging in the next 3 to 4 weeks. You are looking at around 60 to 90 days for it to be ready. And then if it's coming from China or India, you're looking at about 4 weeks on the water by sea freight. Obviously, air freight is an option, but it's expensive. European factories are generally same sort of lead time in terms of manufacturing, but obviously much quicker. It's about a week on the water from Europe. UK manufacturers, again, no shipping implications there because it's been made in the UK, but depending on how big the factory is or the maker is, you might have a long lead time. So it's all about understanding and working your lead times into your critical path. And the last thing I want to just give you some advice on is when you are searching for a supplier, whether that be through a trade show or word of mouth or LinkedIn, anything like that, it's building up a relationship with that supplier. It's getting to know them, to finding out as much information as you can as part of a due diligence process as well, and building up some trust with your supplier. Never, ever, ever hand over any money to a supplier if you have any doubts whatsoever. If you don't know a supplier, if you have got a bit of a funny feeling about that supplier, do not hand over any money. Most suppliers will ask for a deposit up front to enable them to go and buy the raw materials and maybe cut patterns and things like that. It is standard procedure to pay 30% up front, and then the deposit before you receive the goods. That is just the way it works. So it's really important that you do build up that trust and get to really know your supplier, particularly if you can't physically go and visit them or see them. So lots of conversations, lots of Skype calls. Don't panic about dealing with China because they do generally speak very good English, but it's making sure that you've got some confidence in your supplier, they understand your business as well, before you commit to ordering any goods with them or paying them any money. So the sourcing part, again, will take you quite a while. It'll be lots of emailing, it'll be lots of conversations, and I would say you probably have to contact maybe 10 to 12 suppliers and manufacturers before you will whittle it down to one. So there's a lot of work involved in that as well. Okay, and last but not least, once we have sourced our product and we've gone through the sampling procedure, we've approved the sample, the goods are being shipped and maybe they're here, it's then about marketing that product. So unlike with arbitrage, where we can scan a product and it's there and it's listed on Amazon straight away, we have to do all of that ourselves because your product won't be listed on Amazon. You can't scan a branded product and submit your product instead. You have to create that process, that product, sorry, and the listing. And that will involve good quality professional images. So you need white background, you'll need flat lays, you'll need lifestyle shots, for not only for Amazon, but for your website, for your social media, to point people to where they can buy them. If you are selling through a website as well, it's down to you to create the copy, to make sure your sizing details, your dimensions, your technical details, which you've already got because you've done that in your brief, but it's making sure that all of that is written for your website and for Amazon listing. Then you will need a marketing strategy. We've got to do that with anything that we're selling anyway, but again, it's your product. You are selling essentially a brand new product. It could be a new brand that you've created. So you need to tell that story. And that is a long-term project. You can start to do that while your product is going through manufacturing. You can start to share your journey with your audience. You can tell them about the process. You can include them in the decision making. But you are essentially building up a brand. You're building up brand awareness and a brand following. So a marketing strategy in itself is quite a big task to deal with. But it's essential if we want to build up our own products and our own brand. You know, you think of some of the big brands in the UK, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, gosh, what else have we got? Bic pens, for example. They didn't just, you know, become success overnight. There was a lot of work involved, and, you know, building up customer loyalty, getting case studies, getting testimonials, getting feedback, tweaking the product, tweaking the branding, tweaking the design. So you were at the start of a journey that if you get the product right, which going back to stage one was all about the product brief and the customer and the price and how you can make your product different and better and stand out. If you get all of that right, you're at the start of a, you know, really exciting journey, and you will tweak and alter your product over the coming months and years to come. But it's really exciting to develop your own products, and there's nothing nicer than your product arriving or a sample arriving, and it's all down to you that you've developed from absolutely nothing. So those are the 5 steps. We've got research, we've got product details, we've got a sourcing brief, we've got finding our product through some good suppliers, and then we've got marketing. So this checklist is available for you to grab. If you want any more help on this, I do offer one-to-one calls, and I do work with clients and do some sourcing for them. I was doing that in China last week for a couple of clients. And so if people do not want to trek over to China or India, I do that for them. I'll next be going in October. But yeah, check out my Facebook page, which is Facebook is Retail Queen. I have a website, which is www.rbqconsultancy.co.uk. I've got a free Facebook group. I have got a membership club that you can join for £20 a month, and we cover lots of things about product development in there. But any questions, even if you're watching this on catch up, let me know, and I'm tagged into the group thanks to Kristen, and I will help out wherever I can. It'd be really interesting to find out what kind of products and ranges that you were all thinking of developing. Hopefully I haven't put you off, and that I don't want to put you off, because I think it's a really exciting journey, and it sits really nicely alongside arbitrage if that's what you are doing. It's just a very detailed process, very lengthy process, but believe me, if you put the work in up front, it just, you know, pays back in terms of results, because you'll have a fantastic product, you'll be really confident in your suppliers, and you'll be building up a really credible brand, because your product represents your brand, and it is good value for money. It's different, it's good quality, and you are, as I say, you've done all your due diligence, and you're really, you know, you're really comfortable with the standard of your product. So don't be put off. Go out there and do that if that's what you're interested in doing. It is super exciting. The world is your oyster, literally. You can build up relationships with suppliers virtually through Skype and Zoom and things like that. And you know, there are lots and lots of small businesses that are working successfully with European and Asian factories without ever jumping on a plane and go meeting them. So it can be done, and it's a way to go off into a slightly different journey. So hope you've enjoyed this. As I say, tag me in on any questions. I'd love to know what you are all developing, and I will speak to you all soon. Thanks for having me. Bye for now.